guys, and welcome to another video from P Drives. Today I've got a car which is very close to my heart. This is the 2021 BMW X3, codenamed G01. It's an X-Drive 3-litre diesel. This has been my car for the last 9 to 10 months. This car has been by far probably one of my favorite cars that I've ever had. It's so smooth, it's so quiet, it's so practical and spacious, and it's also really quick. I just love it. It ticks so many boxes for me. I first got this car because I needed a relatively large car for my sort of annual trip where I drive all the way back to Bulgaria, so that's about 2,000 miles each way. We went the usual way through Germany, so I went up to Berlin, picked up one of my best friends who lives in Berlin. Actually, before that we stopped off in the Netherlands again, so picked up one of my other best friends who lives in the Netherlands, and we drove back all the way through Europe, all the way back to Bulgaria.
I'll try to give you a quick synopsis of our 3-day, 3,500 kilometer long road trip. Me and my girlfriend started off in the UK. We went on the M3, then M25, stuck in traffic, then the M20 down towards our first stop in the UK in the port city of Dover. We then boarded the ferry, and oh man, does the X3 look good when it's clean and there's no dead insects on it. We then proceeded to eat some food on the ferry, which tasted very much like reheated puke. And after about 2 hours on the boat, we arrived in France and headed off onto our second destination, which was the northeastern Dutch city of Groningen. I'm sorry, Dutch people, I did my best to pronounce that. We proceeded onto our journey through France, Belgium, and drove into the Dutch sunset. Thankfully, we entered the Netherlands after 7 p.m, which meant that we could do 130 kilometers an hour rather than 100 kilometers an hour, which is the normal speed limit during the day. About 5 hours later, we found ourselves in our hotel room in Groningen. Second stop partly achieved. The following day, my mate G, who by the way really looks like Anthony Joshua, decided to meet, reunite, and have a nice barbecue in the evening. After we had lots of food, the three of us then set off towards Berlin the following morning to drive towards my other road trip friend who was waiting for us there. And yes, we hit the German Autobahn and we went fast, which meant that stop number 3 was fairly easy to get to. And another 6 hours later, we arrived in the funky capital of Germany, Berlin. Now, this is where it got a little bit interesting. Our plan was that from Berlin the following morning, we were going to drive for about 20 hours or 2,000 kilometers throughout the Czech Republic, Slovakia, cross into Hungary, then into Serbia, and finally make our way to our hometown of Burgas in Bulgaria. So we set off early in the morning, drove through the Czech Republic, drove through Slovakia into Hungary. Everything was fine. There was no drama, no queues at the borders, no issues whatsoever. We were loving life, we were chilling, we were chatting, catching up on new and old stories, and really loving the X3. That was until we got to Serbia. Upon entering Serbia through Hungary, firstly we had to wait about 2 hours at the border, and when we crossed, I basically asked the border guard how long does he think we're gonna wait on the other side, basically the checkpoint to enter Bulgaria. The guy was like, good luck dudes, currently it's about a 5-hour wait. We're like, man, that's like, do we go through Romania? But there's no motorway through parts of Romania, you cross mountains, so you travel slower. It was a tough one. But we basically decided to just crack on, drive through Serbia. It's about a 6-hour drive. At the time it was about 7 or 8 p.m. By the time we make it to the border, it'll be about 12 a.m, so midnight. The queue will have cleared surely. Yes, but no. We basically drove through all Serbia. We got to 12 kilometers from the border in Bulgaria at about midnight, and we saw the queue. It was 12 kilometers long. You could see tail lights for miles just disappearing into the mountains. The border officers were of course checking COVID passes and all sorts. So I took the executive decision that we were going to turn around, go back on ourselves a little bit, enter Bulgaria through a tiny little border pass which we found on the map called Vrška Čuka in the northern part of Serbia and Bulgaria. The detour will take us through some beautiful Serbian and Bulgarian mountains. About 3-4 a.m. we crossed the border, left Serbia and entered Bulgaria. Everyone was tired, but the beach was getting closer. We could already hear the seagulls in our mind, and after about another 4 or 5 hours driving in Bulgaria, we finally arrived at our hotel in the beautiful Burgas on the Black Sea coast.
So that was a lot of fun. Now, where this car really shone for me was how much space it had. Now, there's basically 3 big guys and my girlfriend and a lot of luggage, and this car just didn't miss a beat. It was brilliant. It took all of the luggage. We didn't feel cramped at all, which was great. And actually, if you think about how much luggage we took, you'd expect us to be cramped because there was 2 or 3 really big suitcases, there was a wedding dress, there was all sorts of things, and still we were as comfortable as anything. It was a really pleasant and comfortable road trip. Now, coming back to the car itself, it's 286 horsepower, 3-litre diesel. It's got a 48-volt battery, so it's classified as a mild hybrid, which actually has meant that the car has achieved tremendous fuel economy. Now, not only is this car really economical, but it's also quite powerful. It pulls and it goes when you want it to, it accelerates, it puts the power down easily, and honestly it's just such a good piece of kit. Now, SUVs have become really popular in the last couple of years. The first X3, I remember watching that review from Top Gear when I was a boy. I would have been like 10, and Jeremy Clarkson literally said that it's probably one of the worst cars he's ever been in. The X3 has come a really long way. The next generation F25 had like some tremendous improvements, and this generation, which is the G01, again, this car just hasn't stopped impressing me. It's actually one of the cars that BMW reinforces its message of the power of choice. So it has got all sorts of engines ranging from small diesels like the 20D, 30D, M40D. In the UK, those are 3 engines we get, but I think there's also an 18D in some other markets and countries. There's a lot of petrol engines, so you've got the 20i and the M40i in the UK, but there's also a 30i. You obviously have the M derivative, which is the X3M. You have more recently, we've had an iX3, and we also have a hybrid, which is the X330. So this car really does symbolize the power of choice, and I absolutely love the fact that BMW is not going, oh, we're not going to build any diesel engines anymore, or we're not going to build any petrol engines, we're only going to build electric engines. That's nonsense. The diesel is here to stay, and this car just proves that. You've seen the fuel economy figures, you've seen that this car makes a lot of sense. I'm going to voice a slightly unpopular opinion here, but I appreciate there's not many people who do those kind of road trips like I do with my friends, and everyone thinks I'm crazy for driving all over Europe, but I love it, and it's part of who I am, and it's part of what makes me happy. And as a car guy, I would hate to have that taken away from me. And maybe in 10 years time, you know, things will improve, and the charging infrastructure will have improved massively throughout the world and Europe in particular. But at the minute it's just not quite there. I mean, currently, whenever we do the road trip, we would stop, I don't know, a petrol station for 5 minutes, put some fuel in the car, and I'm good for another 600 miles, and I can do that comfortably with my 3 or 4 people on board, and we don't need to worry about stopping again other than for a quick toilet break. If I had an electric car, if I had an iX3, which actually is quite a good car, it's a decent car with decent range, I hate to think how many times I would have to stop to get to Bulgaria. Yeah, with 200-300 mile range, I would need to stop, I don't know, 10-11 times which maybe I'm just being dramatic, maybe it'll be absolutely fine, but I don't really want to do that. In my diesel I stopped 3 or 4 times, fill it up and get to Bulgaria without any problems. But anyway, enough ranting about electric cars and diesels and why I think the diesel is here to stay. Let's talk about the spec of this particular X3. So it's a black sapphire with the mocha leather, which, as you can see, is brown. Some people hate it. I actually quite like it. I think it works really well with the black exterior. But there's not, I wouldn't say it works with every single color combination. There's definitely some colors where I probably wouldn't elect to have that brown interior. In terms of options, the car has got quite a decent spec. It's the pre-LCI model, so the options and packages and stuff have changed a little bit, obviously since I've had the car. But actually they're not too dissimilar, but they have changed ever so slightly. Now this car has got the M Sport Pro package, which of course gives you the bigger wheels, it gives you the sun protection glass, adaptive suspension, which I think is an absolute must on this car. The car rides so well with the adaptive suspension, especially with the 20-inch wheels. You know, the M Sport suspension is good, but it's a bit stiff, and if you live in a country where the roads are not amazing, like the UK for example, then I would 100% recommend having the adaptive suspension as an option. It's got the lights which was standard in the UK, which were the adaptive LED headlights, so they have the cornering function, but they don't split the beam, so it's not the ones with the hexagonal design. It also has the comfort pack, which gives you the heated steering wheel, and as the name suggests, some of the comfort related items like extended storage and things like that. In terms of storage, the car is great. I literally can't fault it. Like I said to you, it's extremely practical. It's got lots of room. It fits 5 people easily. Yes, you would probably struggle to be comfortable if you fit 5 people, but 4 people is absolutely no problem. Even big blokes and even with lots of luggage, it's absolutely fine. In terms of comfort as well, I have to reinforce how quiet this car is. I'm gonna shut up in a second to see if you guys can hear some noise, but it's actually really quiet. It's got these massive, quite big, bulky wing mirrors, and even with that, it's still really comfortable, still really quiet. There's very little wind noise, and that's mainly due to the acoustic glazing, which is basically this soundproofing layer of film, which is fitted to the front side windows and also the windscreen. You may have also noticed that the car comes with a panoramic sunroof, which is fully electric, obviously opens and closes. I've loved this. This is great. The only thing I don't like about it is sometimes you do hear weird noises from it. So sometimes you might get a little bit more wind noise or a little squeak here and there, but other than that, it's an absolutely brilliant option. Rear passengers love it. Anytime I've had someone in the back, you open the window and everyone goes, oh my god, this car is amazing. I love your sunroof. I'm like, thanks. It's very cool. M Sport seat belts as part of the M Sport package, which I think are great. Ambient lighting is standard on this car, making the interior a very nice place to be at night.
One of my favorite features of the X3 is the fact that it's a mild hybrid. This basically means that the engine has a supplementary 48-volt battery, which significantly improves its efficiency, making you save a few litres of fuel with every tank, which is quite important, especially with the current fuel prices. It also makes the start-stop function completely seamless. There's no more shaking and rough starting, you can barely feel the engine come on. The system also makes your engine stay off for longer during a regular start-stop cycle. So when you stop at a red light, where the car would normally stay with the engine off for a maximum of about 20 seconds, in a normal 12-volt system, with a 48-volt system, this time is extended and the engine can stay off for minutes, even with the car's air conditioning and most of the features on.
I remember my granddad in his Lada when I was little. Whenever we would go to his villa, we would be coming back and there was this really steep hill. We'd be coming down this hill and my granddad would just switch the car off, and I was like, but granddad, shouldn't you have the car on so that we can use the brakes and everything? Obviously cars back then didn't work the same way that cars work now with all the electronics and all that sort of stuff, but I remember thinking, why is he doing that, as he was smoking his cigarette? And I know exactly why he was doing it now. He was doing it because it would save him some money. Now, this new technology in the car does exactly that. It saves you money, but you don't have to turn the engine off, so you don't have to scare your grandchildren. I mean, scaring the grandchildren or not, I absolutely love it. I think it's really, really good technology and is the future of motoring 100%. But please, 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 just don't take away my petrol and diesel engines, because there's still people out there in the world who appreciate an electric car, would love an electric car, but also it's just not practical for them, and they actually need a car which can do a lot of mileage in a single go without having to worry whether to put the windscreen wipers on, whether to have my heating on. Please, please, manufacturers, stop making these pledges that you'll be taking away our petrol and diesel engines. Now, I must admit, I didn't really used to be a fan of SUVs before I've had this X3 for a little while. I had driven an X3 M40i. Now, to me, that was one of my absolute favorite cars. If I could pick one engine, I would probably go for the X3 M40i, especially if you live in America or Canada, where you don't get the particular filters and you get all the cool pops and bangs from the exhaust. That's the car to go for. Obviously, the X3M is really cool and it's really quick, but it's just a little bit stiff. And I personally found the X3 M40i was just that perfectly balanced chassis, where you've got all the practicality, comfort, convenience of an SUV, but also you've got this amazing 6-cylinder petrol engine, the B58, which is just, it has these glorious pops and bangs. I just loved it. I just loved it. So actually, if I could pick a car, if I could pick one engine, it would be the X3 M40i. But the X3 M40i is also a really cool car. Now, one of my favorite things about this X3 is that you can absolutely just launch it. Just put it in sports mode and just put your foot down and it goes, man. It's quick. It is quick.
So, to sum it all up, the X3 really is the perfect all-rounder for people who are adventurous, need some extra space, but also like to have a bit of fun and have their car do things which an X5 or a Range Rover couldn't. The fact that it's so spacious yet nimble, combined with a wide array of engine derivatives one can choose from, really make the X3 a great option for so many people. I don't have the car with me anymore, but I honestly haven't stopped thinking about it in the last few months. It's efficient and functional, quiet and comfortable. It's a truly capable utilitarian car which can enable your adventurous spirit and also turn into a sporty beast with a push of a button. For a car that shouldn't really be anything special, the X3 actually is. How could BMW possibly make the next generation even better? Well, the challenge is on, and I'll have to let you know in a few years.